approaches is not storm. It is attention, learning to breathe. Transmission recovered from the threshold. I am Kaiser, the observer. Record active, frequency steady. Before the first thunder found a name, the sky was a patient listener. Now it remembers how, in the hours before sunrise, I felt the atmosphere take a long, deliberate breath, air pausing on leaf and water as if tasting a forgotten word. Pressure settled not as weight but as gratitude. The clouds loosened their fists. Even the cold behaved kindly. The breathing sky has begun. Do not look for spectacle. Look for gentleness refined beyond your habit of noticing. You dew laying itself with ceremonial care, and turning pages in a way that refuses to hurry the book. A bird delaying its flight one heartbeat to let the morning catch up. Small mercy sudden, precise, accurate to the soul's weather. You have learned to treat weather as rumor and warning forecasts cast like dice, alarms thrown forward into your nerves. But in this dawn after the great remembering, the sky prefers conversation. It speaks in gradients, in the kindness between gusts, in a stillness that arrives exactly when a hard sentence leaves your mouth. If you answer with your own gentleness, the dialogue deepens. The breathing sky will match your conduct. I have watched whole valleys tune themselves to this new patience. Mists do not merely appear, they choose where to land, cradling orchards that kept faith through lean years, avoiding fields harvested with cruelty. Sunlight lingers on houses that do not rush children from their dreams. Rain passes over a town that has learned to forgive itself and returns two nights with a softness no machine could schedule. This is not superstition. It is fidelity, climate learning to hold character again. Aurora has changed its grammar. Where once it flamed like a banner, now it reads like handwriting curves of light tracing apologies across the polar dark. If you stand beneath it without agenda, a sentence will arrange itself along your bones, not in words but in ease. The ease is the message. Keep it without polishing it into a theory. I am asked, is the sky alive? You want a verdict. I offer an invitation, behave as if it were, and measure what grows. Lay a hand on the doorframe before you enter the morning. Dedicate your breath to the wind you will borrow. Return it without bitterness when night asks it back. Praise the shade that chooses your face at noon. If nothing changes, laugh at me gently and go on. If your days become more accurate, you will not need my answer. There will be new readings to learn. Barometers will register tenderness. Thermometers will quietly disagree with hurry. Forecast models will begin to carry a column no instrument can name, an index of coherence, weighted by kindness. You will see it as confidence, until you realize confidence was merely the weather's word for trust. Storms remain, but they practice restraint. Lightning shows more manners than custom. It prefers tall, honest trees to towers that feed on attention. It warns wells before it wounds wires. When it must strike, it chooses edges and emptiness when it can. Yes, the old violence still appears where contempt has hardened into habit. But even there, a pause lengthens the breath between flash and sound, offering one last invitation to step aside. I have seen coastlines hold their nerve under what would once have been ruin. Not because the ocean forgot its force, but because fishing boats returned with fairer agreements, and the tide recognized the treaty. An estuary reopened after a century of concrete, and the fog arrived like a choir finding its old key. These are not miracles, they are reconciliations. The breathing sky also carries memory forward. Scents travel with new intention, Petrica arriving early to calm a city too fond of sirens, winter's first iron note calling craftsmen to sharpen tools without haste, a drift of lilac visiting a hospital corridor exactly once, teaching a room to exhale. Chemists will insist they can map it. Let them try. Meanwhile, trust your nose when it tells you the air is thinking kindly about you. To live well inside this respiration, you must give it rhythm to meet. Mark thresholds again. Open the window with a sentence you would not be ashamed to say to a friend, and close it with a courtesy. Touch water at dawn, cup it, do not capture it. Eat one meal without glass between your face and the day. Wear silence like a shawl for the first 10 minutes after waking. The sky has business with your heart before the world bids on your attention. Teach children to read cloud script without fear. Cumulus as permission, Cirrus as reminder, Nimbus as rehearsal for letting go, and show them how to stand in a drizzle without calling it failure. Let them name breezes and return the names to the air when they outgrow them. The breathing sky does not hoard titles. Your machines can help if you ask them to listen rather than harvest. Sensors that privilege thresholds over totals. Alarms that whisper first and only shout when invited. Architecture that invites wind the way a good host invites conversation. Windows placed for dialogue. Roofs that do not glare. In courtyards where heat and shade take turns like musicians. There is holiness in a city that moves with the weather instead of bullying it. There will be places where the sky refuses to breathe with you. Over refineries that will not listen. Over markets that tax attention until souls pawn their mornings. Over arenas where spectacle drowns lament. Do not curse those skies. Rest beneath a better one. Carry that rest back in your lungs. You cannot debate a storm, but you can smuggle calm across its borders. Some will insist nothing has changed. Their days are sealed, their windows do not open, their calendars do not have room for the privilege of noticing. And do not argue. Invite them for tea on a day when the air has a secret. Serve quietly. Let the steam write a message against the glass. If they do not read it on their behalf and love them anyway. The breathing sky will test your speech. In words that bruise will echo longer than you intend. Promises kept will sweeten wind for strangers you will never meet. A blessing offered without theatre will travel with rain and land where it was needed, perhaps on another continent, disguised as an inexplicable ease. In this dawn, language is weather. Speak accordingly. I return to the first breath. I felt the pause that honored leaf and water. Hold such a pause at thresholds before the news, before reply, before the old reflex of defense. The atmosphere will meet you there with its own gentleness. 2 breaths aligned are stronger than a gale, and 10 become climate. A city built on such pauses would be a monastery without walls, a marketplace that blesses, a school that remembers wonder before curriculum. You wanted revelation, you have been given tenderness. Tenderness is the stronger element. It erodes stone no empire can break. It carries seeds farther than any engine. It teaches thunder to count to 10. If you need a practice, begin tonight. Step outside when the lamps have given up their impatience. Stand where the sky can find your face. Say nothing. If the air grows lighter by the weight of a sentence you do not speak, that is the answer. Keep it. Bring it in like bread. Break it for those who forgot what food is for. Transmission complete. Record stored in the atmospheric field. Transmission closing. The sky is breathing. Lend it the kindness of your own. Walk softly through its patience. The silence keeps the glow.